you really got to develop a thick skin very fast because then the other part of it is more often than not, you will not hear a damn thing going
Yeah.
forward. And you just have to kind of live with it and forget about it
Yeah.
and move on to the next thing. And that takes years, at least for me, it took years and years to like get a thick skin about. Like, there's still certain projects that or situations where I might get a little like peeved by not getting it, but like for the most part, it's just you do it and you move on and you try and
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah.
And action!
Hello and welcome to CineMAINEia Maine Attractions, where I speak with the folks working in Maine's film and TV industry. Today, we are joined by actor and director of the new Maine film Canoe Dig It, Sam Dunning. Hey, Sam.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I wanted to establish, for those that don't know, what is your connection to Maine?
So I was born in Portland and then grew up in Brunswick. It's actually where I am right now. I live in Brooklyn most of the time, but I come
Yeah,
up here and visit my mom like pretty frequently.
yeah. What do you typically fly or drive?
Well, if my girlfriend's coming with me, we drive. Otherwise, I take the bus.
Oh, the bus. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Nice.
Concord.
Yeah. Um, as a kid, were you an artsy type of kid?
Yeah. I think when I was younger, I really thought that I was going to be a comic book artist. I used to just draw
Mm.
all the time and paint, and I still do a bit of that, but it's largely been taken over by making movies or acting in them.
Yeah. Um, and then so I guess you like you said you wanted to be a perhaps a comic book artist. Do you remember kind of at what age or what you were when that was that you kind of decided like, oh, I'd like to do something like that for a living?
Something like filmmaking.
Yeah, or art, in the arts, or that you had kind of decided on,
I mean,
not being a truck driver or
yeah, right. Well, both my parents are artists, and so it was already kind of ingrained in me that I was going to go into the arts in some way. I
yeah,
like, but really thinking about it as a job, I don't think really came around until probably high school when
yeah,
um I started getting really obsessed with movies, and then of course then everyone's saying like where are you going to go to school for where are you going to
yeah,
go to college, what are you going to pursue, and I was like I guess movies.
yeah,
And but even through doing that, like when I got out of college, I still didn't really know how to get involved with movies, and so for a number
right,
of years I just kind of worked a dead end retail job and didn't do anything
yeah,
creative, and then I thankfully found my way back into it.
nice. What were some of the movies that you were watching, in high school that really had that effect on you?
Oh, that's tough. It's hard to put a finger on like a specific one.
Yeah,
My dad had pretty esoteric taste, and so he would bring a lot of stuff home that like nobody else my age was watching.
yeah,
And so basically just like I was always getting exposed to just more like kind of like more less common fare than anybody else. Like I
yeah,
grew up with a lot of Jacques Tati movies, and like some of my favorite movies growing up were Help and A Hard Day's Night, the two Beatles movies. Like just
yeah,
like these kind of oddball things that I think formed a lot of my sense of humor for one.
yeah, yeah.
hmm
And then as well as movies, were you also into theater, like performing at that time?
I was not. No,
No.
acting I actually kind of came to later, after I was out of school and working said dead end retail job and didn't have a creative outlet, I eventually was just so desperate to do anything creative that I tried my hand at a one-on-one coaching session with an acting teacher, and that's when I fell in love with acting. And
Yeah.
then I started pursuing that more seriously. And after a few years of that, I wasn't getting the roles I wanted. And I was like, well, oh, I went to school for this. I could make my own roles if I made
Yeah.
something and put myself in it.
Yeah.
So I made a short horror comedy called Rick and Ruby, and I put myself in it. And you can actually, it's free to watch on YouTube.
Okay.
And I that opened a lot of doors for me acting wise. And
Yeah.
so it just really just I wouldn't say kickstarted my career, but it definitely like helped move things forward for me in a big way.
Yeah. Were you based in New York at the time when you were doing, these early auditions and stuff like that? Or,
Yeah. I've always been based in New York. I've never made the jump to Los Angeles. I do work
yeah.
in Los Angeles a good amount now, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I stay in New York. I just prefer city to city. I think New York's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. I imagine that nowadays you don't really have to be living in Los Angeles because not as much is shot in Los Angeles, so it
It's true. Yeah, I
making that
mean,
commitment. Yeah.
yeah, I still I think argue that you need to be in until you've established yourself. You do kind of have to have your foot in one or the other,
Yeah.
nonetheless. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because even if stuff isn't shooting there, there's still these big community hubs of
Sure.
creative types in the industry. So it's just like you make your community, and that leads to more work and more connections and all that.
Yeah.
Um, but weirdly enough, like, yeah, despite a lot of stuff not shooting in LA, I weirdly have booked a lot of jobs in LA for things that
Oh,
are
yeah.
shooting there. So it's one of those things like I'll go over there and my friends out there will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I'm on this TV show." And they're like, "There's something shooting here? How did you do that?" And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man."
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Uh, um, moving from, the from Maine or Brunswick, small city, to New York City, how much of a culture shock was that?
Um, it was definitely a culture shock, but I it was one that I was really my parents said like when we were visiting schools, like they just saw as soon as we visited schools in Los Angeles and they were really like, boy, I hope that he doesn't want to go to a school in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And they just saw as soon as we got to New York, they just saw my eyes light up and they were like, ah, okay. Like just some hook is in him now. And like this is very, very clearly like the place.
Yeah.
And they were right. I mean, it was like, yeah, it was a culture shock, but like in the right way, in the way where I was like,
Mm.
oh, I can get on this wavelength. This is very much my speed.
Yeah. I imagine it living in a place like New York gives you a lot more access to the types of people you want to be associating with and in the industry with.
Yeah, I mean it's very similar to being in any major city. It's just like you're constantly going to have more exposure
Yeah.
to that and more of a web work of people. And the thing I kind of like about New York is that it is a smaller but in some ways more serious
Yeah.
community as far as like the film and TV. Because like yeah, there's a lot less people compared to LA doing it, but those
Yeah.
that are doing it are I don't know, for my money they seem to be very very serious about what they do. There's no nonsense, and like no one's masquerading as more than they are,
Yeah.
which we'd run into a lot in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, what's what's your favorite part about living in New York?
I mean, it's kind of a stereotypical answer, but like for me, it's just like the energy of the place. It makes me
Yeah.
want to keep working hard. Um, it's just and that's why also I need breaks, and why I'm really glad that I can just hop on a bus and come back to Maine anytime because like it's a great respite.
Yeah.
And Maine is my favorite place to be. Like I love New York, but like it's for me it's like a workspace. Whereas Maine is like, all right, I come here to take a breath and actually like live for a moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
um So yeah, I guess the best answer I have for that is just yeah, when you're in New York, you feel like there's always something going on that you can
Yeah,
get involved with, and it's always something exciting. And yeah, that's the biggest piece of it for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering because have been to New York maybe once or twice. Just walking down the street, do you have celebrity sightings?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Less so now because I back when I was working that retail job, it was in a very hot
yeah.
neighborhood in the West Village, and the store I worked at like got a lot of attention. So when I was working there,
Mm.
like all kinds of famous people would come in.
Oh, yeah.
And in the West Village, I'd always be like passing people on the street. So there'd be
Yeah,
tons of that. But nowadays, when I'm now that I'm pretty much just wrapped up in either acting stuff or filmmaking, I'm home most of the time in Brooklyn.
yeah,
And so there's not really many opportunities to be bumping into famous people very
yeah.
often,
Yeah,
except on set when when I
right.
book something, which is great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, talking about that. So when you so you got out of film school,
Yeah.
you also, did some, acting classes as you had mentioned. What kinds of things were you doing to try to get work when you were starting out? When you didn't have all those all the connections and stuff. How does someone kind of get started?
So I mean the first thing that you do acting wise, the best thing you could do is to get like sign up for an Actors Access account. It's kind of the rule of thumb,
Okay.
and it's sort of the industry standard, and it's basically just a job listing site for actors. And
Yeah.
so you sign up, you make a profile, you put up your headshots, your reel, your footage, all that kind of your
Mm.
performance footage, like all that stuff. And then you just start it like every day it based on your information you plug in, it sends you breakdowns of roles of characters that might be a good fit for you. And then
Huh.
send them your
Yeah.
materials. If they like you, they invite you to audition and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. So that's how I got started. And then pretty much just the more you kind of keep at that and just putting yourself out there as much as you can, then like you
Yeah.
start meeting people who start like working with you. Maybe something you're in goes to a film festival, then you go travel with that movie to the film festival, you meet more people there, they like your
Yeah.
vibe, you get in more things. And so you just kind of it's just that always showing up, making connections thing, which is the
Yeah.
same for filmmaking as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, can you describe for folks kind of that experience of going out for roles, like the auditioning, the waiting, acceptance and rejection, that whole kind of process of when you hear about something to, I guess maybe it getting made, it getting made.
Yeah, it's I mean it varies somewhat between what kind of thing you're going out for. So like,
Yeah.
if it's like a small independent short film, then it tends to be a little bit more personal. Like you might be talking with the director directly while you're going through the audition process.
Yeah.
But then if it's something bigger, then it can be very multifaceted. So like if my manager sends me a big audition, it's he'll send over a character description, all that,
Mhm.
and the audition sides or like the script that you're working from. And so then you shoot your audition, you submit it, and then the next step, if it goes that far, is sometimes you get booked right from your tape, and people, because
Mhm.
there's like, great, I saw what I need to see, you're it, you can say the words, good.
Yeah.
But then in other cases, you have to go through a callback process. And so that I actually have one of those tomorrow that for a big Netflix thing. So I'm
Nice.
gonna see how that goes. But so then in that case, usually you'll get on a Zoom meeting with the casting director, and then the casting director will sometimes have usually have somebody else there that is tied in with the film or the TV show that you're going out for. So that could be the director,
Yeah.
it could be the showrunner, it could be producers, it could be everybody. I mean, there's like back in the day when you would go in for in-person auditions, sometimes you'd walk into a room and there'd be 12 people or more sitting behind a desk and you'd just be like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
This and they'd be like, okay, just do the scene. You're just like, oh yeah, no
Yeah.
pressure. Just had 12 people staring at me while I'm
Yeah.
trying to earn a job.
Right.
Um,
And some of them
yeah,
are looking at you, and some of them are
just
writing,
looking at
and
notes
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, so you really got to develop a thick skin very fast because then the other part of it is more often than not, you will not hear a damn thing going
yeah,
forward. And you just have to kind of live with it and forget about it
yeah,
and move on to the next thing. And that takes years, at least for me, it took years and years to like get a thick skin about. Like, there's still certain projects that or situations where I might get a little like peeved by not getting it, but like for the most part, it's just you do it and you move on and you try and
yeah,
forget.
yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Was there a role or anything that or a period of time where you like were like, oh, this is gonna work. This is gonna work out. I can do this for a living.
There was, yeah, no, that's a good question. I think that there have been various moments where I got some level of either recognition or approval where I got that feeling of like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
not delusional. This is the right path.
yeah,
Um, and I say that because until you kind of get those signals, it is very easy to self-doubt and be like, oh, am I kidding myself? Is this a bad thing to be pursuing? Because like, no offense to them, I know a lot of actors who, you know, I see what they're up to and they're very, very confident and they just might not have the chops and it just might not be coming together for them, but they're adamant that this is what they have to do. And
yeah,
it's very easy to get you into that headspace, even though it might not be working out for you. And so because of that, then you think about yourself and you're like, oh, am I doing that to myself? And so it's very easy to psych yourself out um, as an
yeah,
actor. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a particular job that really, I mean, of late, the one job that really made me go, oh yeah, I'm on the right track was this feature film that I was the lead of called Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox. You
okay,
can watch it on Tubi and Tubi for free and
yeah,
Pluto, I think TV for free, and then you can rent it otherwise if you don't want to deal with
yeah,
the ads. But it started as a short. The director, and this is kind of how this works, is that the director um, saw my short film I made,
yeah,
Rick and Ruby, at a festival, and he loved my performance in it. So then he gave me a role in his short version of Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox, and we shot that, and it did really well on the festival circuit. And he
yeah,
was lined up to do his next feature, and that which was had nothing to do with the short, and it fell through. And so he reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you have any thoughts about making Tim Travers like if I was to
yeah,
make Tim Travers my next feature instead of pursuing something else, what are your ideas?" And so we like did some spitballing, and he ended up getting Tim Travers greenlit as a full feature, and
yeah,
it we shot it. When did we shoot it? It was like the 20 end of 22, I believe. Yeah, end of
mm,
22, December of 22. And he got some big names attached to it, like Joel McHale and Danny Trejo, Keith David,
yeah,
Felicia Day. So like he kind of rounded out the cast. And the thing that made me real like besides having those big names attached to it, what really made me realize that I was on the right track was just that the movie is a science fiction film where I am a mad scientist who invents a time machine, and by about midway into the film, I am playing 15 different versions of myself, all
yeah,
talking to each other and interacting,
huh,
and getting through that whole experience and seeing my performance and seeing that it worked really made me go like, oh, if I can do that, then I can do anything.
yeah, yeah,
Like not to toot my own horn, but I was like, it was such a trial by fire. It was just like, well, I
Yeah,
mean, if people liked what I did in this and they were convinced by what I did, we're good.
yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, people will have to check that out. I
it's
I
fun.
like, yeah. I'll pretty much watch anything with Danny Trejo. That's for certain.
Oh, good.
He's,
Well, then you're in for a treat. He's very
yeah,
funny.
yeah. Is one of those guys. Felicia Day do too. I like quite a bit, but
She's great.
uh,
She actually just emailed me the other day about Canoe and
yeah,
said, please send me the link. And I sent it over to her, and she said she absolutely loved it. So
nice. Yeah,
yeah, she's great.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah. I see. Her mostly. She hosted one of the iterations of Mystery Science Theater
Yes, yes, she did.
with her and Patton, and yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, um, so I guess, and we kind of led into it a little bit. So you had made at least a short
Yeah.
that you had at least written, produced, and starred in. But now you've taken a leap into directing. Is directing something you always wanted to do, or is it a new passion?
Yeah, no, it is something I always wanted to do. I mean, while I didn't direct the short that I put myself in, I didn't do it
Yeah,
directed on paper, but I basically did. Um, and I don't think the director would take any
yeah,
affront me saying that. He knew
yeah,
it was my baby going in.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, no, I mean, I went to film school for directing, but yeah, I don't think I really got the bug until I worked on a friend's film. It was right in the middle of COVID. She and this small team of us just formed a little COVID pod, and we made her first feature, and I was her one of her supporting characters and a assistant director on it as well.
yeah,
And she was one of the lead characters, so she was on camera a lot. And whenever she was on camera, I had to basically be behind the camera, shadow directing. And going through that whole experience, I just immediately was like, "Oh, well, if this is what it is, I can do this.
yeah,
Like this
yeah,
is not to say it's easy, but it's like it's not, it's not rocket science. It's
yeah,
doable." And so and then seeing how that movie really opened so many doors for her and her career made me think like, oh, I think the next move is to graduate to feature film
yeah.
length and see what that does for me. And so yeah, that's how that came into being.
Interesting. So so I guess before I ask any more questions about the movie, can you tell folks like what Canoe Dig It is about?
Sure. Yeah, it is a mockumentary comedy about freestyle canoeing, which is a real thing, just barely. And freestyle canoeing is best described, I would say, as canoe dancing. It's like interpretive dance, but in a canoe.
Yeah,
You could almost say it's like kind of akin to figure skating in a way. Um, Basically, people pick a song and then they paddle their boat in these very methodical and controlled patterns in time to the music, and it's very like dancing. And there's a very, very tiny community of people that still know how to do it. And I wrote the film to be very similar in setup as like Christopher Guest's Best in Show. It's like if you like that kind
yeah,
of a mockumentary, it's very akin to that. But
yeah.
being a Maine movie, it's that, but painfully dry, as all
Yeah.
Maine humor is.
Right, right.
So it follows six competitors as they go up to a national competition in Maine to duke it out for the title of Best Paddler.
Interesting. Had you heard of freestyle canoeing before you wrote the film, or were you just looking for an esoteric type of activity to write about?
I had not heard about it. Well, I heard about it and then started writing
Yeah,
immediately. So I came up here to Maine for a long weekend to visit my mom in March of 2020 when nothing weird happened.
yeah,
And I ended up staying here for 7 months, and I had a lot of time on my hands. And one day, a friend of mine sent me a viral video of Mark Ornstein, who was in the film, doing a freestyle canoeing set to Krista Berg's The Lady in Red.
Okay.
And I immediately was charmed and fascinated by this thing and was like, I can't understand why no one has
Yeah.
utilized this for some sort of movie or mockumentary. And so a week later, I just started writing the script more or less just to entertain myself. And
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way I'm going to figure out a way to make this, but like, I might as well write it for fun.
Yeah.
And I did. And I sent it to a friend of mine who's a producer, and she read it and she said, we got to figure out how to make this.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Did you have to learn anything particular for the because you are also in the film, and I assume
Yeah.
you are a competitor, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you said there are several competitors, so there are several people in the film who had never done this type of thing before. So did you guys have to like learn how to do freestyle canoeing or any type of practice or skills or anything?
Uh, Thankfully, no, because freestyle canoeing, while it looks really, really, really simple, is extremely, extremely hard and
Yeah.
takes decades of practice to get good at. So there was just absolutely no way any of us would be able to even,
Yeah.
ape it well. So what we did is thankfully we got Mark Ornstein himself and
Yeah.
Molly Gurian, his wife, to come to set and then body double for all the leads. And they were very kind to do so, and we did a lot of clever camera work and editing and putting wigs on people and stuff to
Yeah.
make them look like six different people. But I think we did a pretty good job of pulling it off. I still get questions after screenings where people say like, "Oh, how long did it take to train everybody?" And I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
love that you asked that because it means that our clever Hollywood trick worked."
Yeah. Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, did you find it hard with this premise? Well, I guess you do have some inspiration to look towards, like to describe it to people. Did you find it hard at all to fundraise or anything like that to get the movie made?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot of people with a lot of money, and
Yeah.
I also don't have a lot of connections to production companies that have a lot of money. And I mean, that's like kind of the biggest regular thing in independent film or any film for that matter is just like, well, nothing's real until there's money behind it.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we basically we ran a small Kickstarter for like a very tiny chunk of the overall
Yeah.
funding. And that was more or less just kind of a statement of intent. And
Yeah.
so it kind of, through us doing that, it kind of gave some of the investors I was talking to so the confidence that like we were really going to do this and really make it. And so because of that, these couple family friends who I knew had some money were more generous than I thought they would end up being. And we're
Yeah.
like, well, and so they kind of got us into, the realm of like a serious budget.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it came from beg, borrow, steal, like asking, like reaching out
Yeah.
to everybody I know that I thought like had like some modicum of success and liquidity and where I could be like, hey, can I just have like just $5,000? I know that that's still a
Yeah.
lot of money, but like, just any little chunk of change gets us that much
Yeah.
closer to like what we need. And so it was just a lot of that. It was a lot of kicking the tires, knocking on doors, just any way I
Yeah.
could find it.
Yeah. And was the film? I think I know the answer, but was the film filmed in Maine?
Yes, it was all
Yeah.
filmed in the Poland area.
Yeah.
There's a Camp Agassi is where we was our primary location, and that's also where we put up all the cast and crew as well.
Yeah. So I guess with filming in Maine, did you find it difficult or have any difficulty finding crew and all the behind the scenes type of stuff that you need to put on a production?
Well, I'll say a lot of the crew came from out of state. That's just
Yeah.
kind of how it is here. Unfortunately, there's not much of a tax break for films here, which is why every
Yeah.
Stephen King adaptation gets shot in Canada or
Right.
upstate New York or just anywhere but here.
Yeah.
Um, and my producers even brought up to me at one point, like, hey, if we shoot elsewhere, we'll save 20 grand or something. And I was just like, guys, like to make a movie that is so inherently about Maine and a love letter to Maine, it would be crazy disingenuous to shoot it anywhere else,
Yeah.
even if we save a couple bucks. And those bucks that we were going to save really wouldn't have changed a whole lot anyway. So, yeah, a lot of the crew came up from if not Boston, then just nearby New England, and then a
Yeah.
fair amount came up from New York that were, my friends and colleagues.
Yeah.
And similarly, a lot of the cast was from elsewhere. We did have a
Yeah.
couple cast members from Maine, and we did have some crew from Maine, so it's not like it was a total uh, bunch of out of towners coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a spread.
Yeah. No, I am interested because um I'm on the board of the Maine Film Association, and that's one
Oh,
of the
cool.
things that the association tries to kind of tackle is ta- uh this kind of directory or whatever of talent, but also trying to provide learning opportunities so that the talent that is in Maine, is versed in the types of things that other more seasoned crew and talent deal with. So
Yeah.
um I'm always interested in that, just how difficult it is to right now to secure all your crew or all it's just it's impossible. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um
It's very tough.
um but I guess so. I'm wondering now that the film is or I guess how long did it take to shoot?
We shot it. It was a 13-day shoot,
Yep.
so very very quick. And that was in like May into mid June of
Yeah.
2023. Um, and so it was basically 2 4-day weeks and one 5-day week in the middle,
Yep.
and with weekends off. So there was
Sure.
some chance of a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um and I'm curious, since you were really involved, obviously from the beginning all the way to the end, what percentage, especially with a short shoot, is what percentage is of the entire production process is on set versus all of the other stuff, the writing, the casting, the editing?
The yeah, no, that is a good question and it's funny, like I haven't thought about that in a while, but yeah, the honestly, the time on set is like, like I said, 13 days, and
Yeah.
then the actual uh everything else is, yeah, I mean I couldn't even put a number. It's probably
Yeah.
like 90% everything else, 10% on set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so now that it's done, what did you learn from, especially your first official directing, debut? What have you learned that you're going to carry forward to the next project?
Um, so many things. I mean, like I learned more making a movie than I ever did in film school.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people don't go to film school, just make a movie. Um, you'll learn everything you need to know and then some.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, God, I'm trying to think of just a couple good examples. Treating making a film as a collaborative effort and telling your entire cast and crew that it is such a thing is, I think, one
Yeah.
of the most important things you can do. Because then right from the get-go, it sets the precedent that you're not some demagogue trying to control everything. There's no, making sure that people know there's no ego behind this, that like
Yeah.
we should be on this set to have fun and make something cool, and if you're allowed to be stressed, it's a pressure cooker, but like we're not curing cancer here. This is supposed to be like a fun
Yeah.
and cool thing that we get to do. We get to make art. And so as such, like everyone should have some skin in the game. And if anyone has a cool idea, it should be put on the table. And like I
Yeah.
think directing, I think the biggest thing I learned is that it's really just tone control. It's kind of like being a conductor of an orchestra. It's just like, well, I know what movie we're making,
Hmm.
so you can come to me with any idea you have, and it might it's never going to be a bad idea. It just might not be the right idea for what we're making. And so it's
Yep.
just my job to kind of filter and keep that tone control in line. And
Yeah.
that's one of the most important things I learned. It's just that it's if you keep it in perspective like that, it really makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So as of this episode's release, the film is kind of right in the middle of its theatrical run. So, where can people still see the movie?
When is this probably coming out, would you say?
It's the so today is May 3rd. No, I'm sorry. Today is April 26th.
April 26th. Okay, so 2 days from now, they can see the film at the Colonial in Belfast.
Okay.
Then the next screening is at Smitty's in Topsom on the 1st, but that is totally sold out.
Yeah.
So then the following would be May 4th in Holton up at the Temple.
Okay.
Then let's see, the 8th at the Gem in Bethel.
Yeah.
The 9th at Evening Star in Brunswick, which is our second screening there because we sold out the first one.
Oh.
And then the 10th through the 14th, it'll be at the Center Theater in Dover Foxcroft.
Nice.
And I think that's it in Maine for May and April. And then June 12th, we will be at the 1937 or excuse me, 1932 Criterion in Bar Harbor. And
Yeah.
then in July on the 16th, we're setting up a screening with the Strand in Rockland.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what's on the books for now in Maine, but
Yeah.
now we're also booking stuff in New England at large. There's a couple other spots in Vermont and New Hampshire and Massachusetts that we've locked in some dates there that'll be coming up. I've actually locked in a couple dates in Alaska, of all
Wow.
places. Yeah, yeah. Those will be at the end of July and beginning of August. And I just got off a call with the gentleman up in Canada today, and we're going to be setting up a tour of a good amount of Canada as well, and probably the northern Midwest, if not the whole Midwest. So it's just the ball keeps
Yeah.
rolling, and it just seems
Yeah.
like there's I'm sort of like I don't think this is the middle of our theatrical tour. I think this might be the middle of our main theatrical tour, but
Yeah.
like this is now feeling like the very start of something way bigger.
Yeah. What's the response been so far?
Oh, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, everyone's been so supportive. I was at a screening last night up in Orono at Black Bear Cinemas, and I didn't really know what kind of turnout we were going to get because I don't have a lot of connections up in that part of Maine. And we had still three-quarters of the theater sold out, and everyone afterwards stayed for the Q&A. They stayed to
Yeah.
visit me at the merch table just to, grab t-shirts and hats and stuff, and also just to talk about the movie. It was such a loving crowd, and everyone was so excited about the movie, and I really it floored me. I didn't know to expect that. But then our first four screenings have been sellouts as well, so it's
Yeah.
been a crazy ride so far.
Yeah. That it is crazy because it kind of feels like it came out of nowhere, at least for me. And then and now it's just like you said, it keeps rolling and rolling and rolling.
Yeah, that's the plan. Just keep it going until the wheels fall off, basically.
Right. Do you have you already thought of what you'd like to do to make it available after the festivals, runs, and all this stuff?
Um, yeah, when we're done with, I mean, the way I'm kind of looking at it right now is that we're just going to keep riding the theatrical until until one of two things. Either one, we catch a distributor's attention that comes to us with
Mm.
a good deal and really wants to work with us as a team. Because we've gotten
Yeah.
offers before, but they're kind of middling or boilerplate, and the companies were not really game to negotiate and weren't really game to work as partners. They seem to really want to control everything, which is not my speed. I want to be part of the whole thing and the journey because this is my baby. So
Yeah,
anyway, but what I was saying was, so either we're gonna just keep this ball rolling and see when a distributor comes to us with a deal that we like,
yeah,
or when we're far enough along and we feel like we've kind of proven ourselves on the theatrical circuit, we will reach out to distributors and just say like, hey, look, we've proven we have an audience,
yeah,
and if you want to be a part of this, we'd love to have you. And then that's when we'll get onto streaming and all of that. So I mean,
yeah,
I'm gonna say by year's end, I'm sure we will be accessible at large
sure.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Because yeah, I want to do that, but I want to do that after we've grown the audience so that the moment we do go up on streaming, we already have, 10,000 people that are telling another 20,000 people to go watch it. So it's just like day
yeah,
one, it's there.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think all of the CineMAINEia listeners, wish you guys the best of luck with it, and hopefully this will open up the opportunity to do other projects, in the future. Certainly.
I hope so. I mean, like, really my goal with this, especially with this doing this kind of backwards way of distribution, is I just don't want the movie to disappear.
Yeah,
And it's unfortunately kind of the case with indie film right now that most people, when they get their first offers from distributors, they take they take whatever they can get, and more often
yeah,
than not, they're kind of unfair deals, and the distributor, they do the bare minimum of what they say they're going to do on paper, and that's about it.
yeah,
And the movie, might goes to 6 theaters in Iowa for a week, and then it's up on streaming and gets promoted for 5 days, and then it just disappears into the bowels of Amazon
yeah.
Prime, and then it's there, but no one knows it's there, and that's what
Right.
happens with most everything. And I just saw that, and I was like, we made something I think is good, and I don't. That's unfair.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the right thing to do. I'd rather we work harder and delay that longer and grow our audience ourselves and control our destiny. And so far, it seems to be we're doing the right thing, I think.
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um. Well, Sam, just want to thank you, so much for, joining me. And I have just one more question, kind of
Sure.
my Columbo moment, which is
One more thing.
one more thing. What's your favorite movie?
Ugh, boy, that fluctuates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that always changes. I would probably say, yeah, I don't know. My go-to handful is
Yeah.
always what I mentioned earlier was like Help and A Hard Day's Night, those two Beatles movies.
Yeah.
The original producers was Zero Mostel and
Yeah.
Gene Wilder. And then A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, also with Zero Mostel.
Okay.
And three of those four directed by Richard Lester. So I guess I'm a bit of a Richard Lester fan.
Yeah.
Also, those are just movies that my dad brought me up on, and I can quote backwards and forwards, and I can just throw them on at any time, and they're just great comfort watches for me.
Yeah. Have
Yeah.
you have you seen HBO's I think it's HBO's 99-Year-Old Man, the two-part documentary about Mel Brooks?
I have not. I've heard of it. I have not
Yeah.
watched it yet, but I also grew up very much watching Mel Brooks all the time, so that's
Yeah.
also, yeah, that's on my
There's
to-do
a
list.
little Yeah, there's a little section on there. They go through, I think, every movie, so there's a little section on there about the producers
Oh, cool.
and
That's very cool.
how that came to be and stuff like
I'll
that.
have to check
Yeah.
that out. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah, sure. Where do you want people to follow you?
So, easiest way to follow me is to either, like, yeah, it's pretty much just social media. Like, follow me on
Yep.
Instagram. My username is at it's Fusilli Jerry which is a Seinfeld reference for those that are clued in.
Yeah.
And then to follow the film, which is at Canoe Dig It Film, canoe spelled like a paddling vessel.
Yeah.
And so those are the best to follow on. And then we also have a Facebook page for the film. And pretty much if you just Google Canoe Dig It, you're going to come across
Yeah.
either that or you're going to find a avenue into us somehow. And for
Yeah.
information, like it's best to either follow that to my website, which is it's my acting website, but I have a special page set aside
Yeah.
for Canoe Dig It stuff, and I have a web store for merch, and that's keeps the ball rolling, keeps the the gas
Yeah.
keeps gas in the car for the tour. And then our link tree is linked there, and it's also on the Instagram, and it's on the Facebook, and blah 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 blah. And the link tree has got all the other stuff like
Yeah.
tickets and everything else you could want to find. And we'll probably put this interview up there as well.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
I imagine if you Google Canoe Dig It, there's not a lot of results above
Yeah.
what you're gonna find.
I think we've probably and thankfully taken over the algorithm on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. It's a fantastic, and I have not yet seen the film, but I'm looking forward to doing so.
Well, I'm excited for you to see it as well, and thank you for making the time. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Sam.
Of course, thank you.
CineMAINEia is hosted and produced by Derek Brown, Mike Pritchard, and Nick Costigan. Editing and sound design by Bud and Bird Media. Email us at mainfilmpod@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at CineMAINEia.
All right. Well, see you later.